people are not mean to people that they know and they like. If they like you and if they know you and they have that personal connection, they're just not going to throw you under the bus.
Hi everyone, my next guest grew up in Turkey, immigrated to the US, and now runs her own business specializing in D365 training. Elif Item grew up with a strong personality of getting things done. If anyone in her family wanted something, Elif was the go-to person. After she moved to the US, Elif was championed by her husband to get into consulting, and she thrived rising to the top of that game. I didn't know, but she also has an MBA in addition to her MVP and MCT. After spotting a niche in the market, Elif set up her own training company, ItemByItem. I originally thought that Elif's superpower was persuading people to change their no to a yes. But I've since learned that Elif is a super connector. She does this by being honest about herself, what she can do, and what she's observing. Please join me in welcoming Elif. Well, good afternoon, good evening to you there, Elif. It's good morning over here in Brisbane. Thank you so much for joining me. I had such a great time chatting with you and sharing a meal and even meeting your husband, Cem.
Yes.
How's things with you? Well, you returned back to Texas, obviously.
Great. Yeah, it was great fun to meet you face to face. It's interesting, it's sort of turning customers into colleagues and friends. So it was a lot of fun to chat with you too. I'm doing good. It was a little bit of an adjustment to come back to States. The first week was a little bit hard as far as adjusting back into the time zone and everything, but everything is settled. This is a really busy time for me at work, so it's keeping me busy, but it's good. It's a nice little, springtime in here in Dallas. So we're enjoying the nice weather before the heat comes in. And there are lots of exciting things around this time, like conferences and things like that in US. So that's also exciting that I'll get to see some other people from the D365 world as well.
Speaking of other people, when you actually meet them, do you have a great memory and you can remember everyone's faces and names?
I am horrible with names. So I'm great with faces and places. Like I would not forget someone that I've met or a place that I've been. And I'm also like even directionally, like I can remember a place that I've been and 10 years later, I could find it. It's like, but names, not so much. I don't know why. I don't know if because when I meet someone, I don't think I really pay attention to their names.
Good
I'm
point.
more like, interested in their face and like who they are, what they do. And then all of a sudden, like I could move and I could remember all of that, but then I walk away and I'm like, what was her name? But after a couple of times, I'm trying to get better at it because it's not nice. The weird thing is I can remember, like I can have a very genuine, normal conversation and I can remember everything about that person, but I cannot just put their name together. So it's
I have a father-in-law who says champ, and he calls people, "Hey champ," and then you feel great because you are a champ, and then the person doesn't know that he actually calls everyone champ.
That's good. But in Australia, you guys have that mate.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great way
Right.
of so instead of like if you don't remember the person's name, you can just call I guess for guys it's more of a thing. But yeah,
No, but you
I'm
could use it too. You could use it like if you're questioning someone, like, why did you do that? You go, mate. So you can actually use it in different ways with different tones to
that's
emphasize.
true. Yeah. Are you good with names?
No, and I also say it's so good to see. Like when I grew up, I used to call everyone uncle and auntie, and that again was a get out of jail card because you knew how to handle people without.
Yes.
Or you actually wait for someone to call them, and they say John, and I go, John, great to see you.
Oh, yes.
Got to
That's
play
true.
those games, Elif. Okay, so
Yes.
we've chatted before. I wish I recorded all of that because you gave me a whole life story. Could we take a different tack with this chat?
Sure.
And the reason is that there's so many things you do, and I believe the power of you as an MCT MVP, a business leader in your original consulting, and also now as a CEO of your own Item by Item, is that you have a way of thinking, and I would love to capture that spirit and the way you solve problems in this chat.
Yeah.
And the reason is because there's so many people that, okay, you get into D365, you're crunching away, maybe you're a functional or developer, and they may want to break out. How do they break out and obviously rise to a different situation, something like maybe what you've created? So maybe could we go back to when you were just a little baby? You were born in Turkey, right? And I'm trying to
Yes.
capture the essence of you and the personality of how you maybe fought against your parents or your siblings, maybe the schooling that you had that crafted baby Elif.
Yeah. I think some of it is personality for sure. It's like some of it is you're born with it because I remember my parents jokingly, like every time there was like we lived in the city in an apartment, and there was no big grocery stores or anything like that. When you needed something, you just ran down, and then they would always tell me like every time there was something would be needed in the house, and they say, "Oh, we need eggs," and I'd be like, "I'll go." And then I think it's just like it, and then they would joke like my brother would be like, I don't really want to go. And I think there's some of that. I am definitely impatient. I think it's just like it's known in the family. If I want something, I will like nag them until I get it. And my mom used to always say like, it was really hard to say no to me because I would find ways to bring the same thing again over and over from different perspectives, try to convince them to say no, say yes if I wanted to go to a field trip. And they were like, whatever the reason they were saying no, I would always come back. But I think so some of that is like taking initiation or having that mentality of, yeah, we should just get things going and move things along. I think that's built into me. But also I think I've had great support. Like my father
Mm,
was very supportive of me being an independent, girl, a woman, going to school. There were no barriers built for me. Like it was always like, if you want to go to college to another city, I will send you. If you you get your master's in another country, I will do that. As long as you are willing to do the work and you're willing to put the initiative, I was supported. Maybe that had an influence. If
yes.
my family and my father would have told me, oh, what are you going to do? You're just a girl and you can get married
Mm,
and move on. I think I would have just maybe not think that freely about what are the possibilities for me. And some of it, I think, is faith because, we talked about it. When we met, also some of the things where I landed ended up not necessarily what I initiated. Me coming to United States, I never thought of moving to US. It was more my, at the time, fiance, now my husband's desire. He wanted to live in United States. So I was indifferent to it. I didn't, I wasn't opposed to it, to say I don't want to go, but also I wasn't like, yeah, let's, go. But when I got here, then I looked at all the different options that I had, um, and then took steps towards how to make this life my new life. It's different than the one before, but I think those sort of there's not really a recipe, so you have to sort of like use your personality traits in a way that would make you the most successful in what you do. Um, but I'll tell you a little,
okay.
little story. I know that it's when I first started to look like for a career for myself, because I finished my MBA and I did my business. So I'm sort of, I'll have all of these options. But of course, when you move to United States and you don't have a work visa, your options are very restricted. Like you just sort of have to find the job that wants you, because you cannot really pick any job that you want because you don't have work visa. The company has to support you, etc. So I generally knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know like where. So I was always good at organizing things. I loved working on short-termish projects. Like I didn't want to work on something that was going to take 10 years. That's just, it was too long, too much for me. I enjoyed that outcome and oh, it's done. Now let's move on to something else. And I enjoyed working with people. I was always sort of analytical, but not super techy. So, I thought I should be an event planner out of all of these things. So I didn't even think of like getting into IT project manager. And because to me, what I knew from my environment, that those sort of skills would do well in an event planner. And so, and when I, me and my husband, we talk a lot about a lot of things, all the time. We're best friends. And when we were talking about it, and he was smart, he's very smart, but at the time he was also smart. So he guided me and basically he was like, that's all good. Like, these are all the wonderful things that you're so good at, but why not focus on an area that you can have more authority, make better money, and have all of these future opportunities. And that's when it was like, you can be a project manager. And then from there, it's sort of like, that was my high level goal. And to get there, it took many years because of the visa restrictions. I had to have not so great jobs at the beginning. You're just sort of like working to make ends meet and making sure that you stay here. But when, as the opportunities come up, that was always in the back of my mind, and I steered my career towards that. Yeah, we laugh about it all the time because I was going to be a wedding planner, but not a wedding planner. But now I'm a project manager.
Yeah, when we met, you didn't get to meet my partner, Tracia, but what I noticed about her is that she's equally supportive. So, for example, she had studied to be a teacher, and I said to her, why don't you get into IT? And the talk about the money being better, and I wanted to support her in her journey towards this side rather than that side. And I
Yes.
remember that scene from Tom Cruise. Remember The Color of Money? Show me the money. And I could
Yes.
just imagine Cem going to you, show me the money, and you go, show
Yes.
me the
No,
money.
no.
Yeah, like that. And
But
yeah,
I mean, money is not, I think what I think about money is that up to a certain level, I think money is very important. Like, because it makes everything easier. It makes your life easier, all of your problems, to handling your problems easier, whether that's personal problems, health problems, anything. After you reach a certain level of money, then I think how much it matters drops, because however many, whatever money you have, that's not going to exponentially increase or improve your life. But
Sure.
we are at the end, we are an immigrant family. We've immigrated into this country with nothing, so you have that always in the back of your mind, that you have to build certain level of security, wealth. And at the end, I think he knew that I would be intellectually more stimulated with a that sort of project management, IT sort of job, than just organizing things. I'm not diminishing. That's really tough work and a really difficult thing, but it turned out to be true. I'm good at organizing, but I'm also really, I love just learning new things, and I love like solving problems, and it's just like a big bundle of that in the D365 world for sure.
Yeah, I can see why now. I'm putting together the pieces of the puzzle to your life. And you mentioned that when you were born, your personality is there and you feel it's set in some ways. It made you very persuasive. And then you said you had these great parents. So, for example, your dad, he has this pragmatic approach and said, why don't you study for anything that you want? And so that fostered it. Then you mentioned luck. And then on the end, I'm now tacking on the partner, right?
Yeah.
Because I can see how if you marry the wrong partner or get with the wrong partner, some of them could put their history or baggage onto
Yes.
you and suppress you. And another partner can say, I just want you to try a little bit higher, try this, and then you
Yes.
flourish. I'm glad your name, Elif, is short, because I also learned that the number of letters you're accruing, like MBA, MCT, MVP, it just can't fit on a business card. And I suspect they wrap around the back.
Yes, you wrap
Have you
around
got
the
any other
back.
letters whilst we're at it?
Yes,
What's the other
no.
letters you got?
Well, I used to, before I got married, my last name was really long and it was difficult to pronounce also. But I took my husband's last name, which is short and easy to say, especially in English. So it's obviously it makes things a little bit easier. But I do agree. And I mean, we have two kids and we talk to them, and I think it's one of the most important, if not the most important decision of your life is your partner, because choosing your partner right, because you spend so much of your life together. And a partner influences you to take those leap of faith and take some risks or hold you back. Whatever the reason that they hold you back may depend on many things. They may have their own baggage. They may not think that you could do it. They may not think that he wants to be there when you do it. So it really has to be someone who champions you and
Yes.
becomes happy when you're successful. And I think that's hard to find, because when I find this to be a little bit a rarity in guys more. So I'm very lucky on that sense that I never felt my husband felt some
Diminished.
way
Yeah.
less. Yes,
Yes.
some way less, because I am being successful. He always was like my biggest supporter, and I think the way he views it is my success is sort of partially his success. I think that helps to see it that way, but that gives so much freedom to you to explore different things. And I never had to once think, oh, like, oh, if I take this job or if I do this, how is he gonna feel? Of course, I would love to know what does he think about the opportunity. I'd love his opinion, but I never had to think that how is this gonna make him feel now that I may be a little bit more successful, or whatever the reason. I think seeing the family unit as one helps with that. Like, you have that unity, and that success is everybody's success. It was funny because when I became MVP, he chatted to the family chat. And then he basically said, your mom is the first MVP in this family. You guys have a lot of work to do. So it's, getting the kids into the same fold as well.
Dear Lord, imagine being born into your family with
Oh,
parents such as
yes.
Cem and yourself. I mean, I wake up and there's just Mount Everest in front of you, and then you said, well, kids, I'm going to teach you how to climb this. And they're going like, why can't I
Yeah.
just be born to a loser parent? Then I just wake
Yeah.
up, I could lie in bed.
I think, this is a topic that we talk quite a lot, because we cannot sort of have the same expectations of our kids. We have a nice community here. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of our friends. The couple is both, let's say, Turkish or immigrant, and our kids are born and raised in the United States. They don't have this sort of same, they didn't have the same sort of difficulties thinking. So for us to expect them to feel about things the same way is just not right, because they didn't go through the life experience that we went through. But we do believe that you have to set certain level of expectations for the kids without making them super stressed about it. We always expected them to do well in school. We never, like, if I needed help in the house, like in our family, we never gave, like, a lot of people give their kids money for chores and things like that. It's a different sort of mindset, I think. But I felt like if I wanted you to help me, you're just going to help me. I'm not going to pay you to help me, because you're not paying me cook or take care of you. It's sort of like there's certain level expectation in the family. So
Yep.
there are some things like that that I think we are hopefully instilled in our kids. They're both great students, which was very important for us. They really like to learn. I think that makes life so much more fun. I like to learn, but like my husband is beyond, like the way he reads and listens to stuff that he's just constantly seeking information. I get, I'm a little bit more selective on the way that I consume information because I can get upset about things. And, so I'm a little bit more, for personal and business, but both ways I'd like to learn, and hopefully we were able to transfer that a little bit to the kids, that they are curious about the world and they want to learn about different things.
I see so many things that have worked out well in your life, and I could assume that you do everything right. But tell me about the things you were naughty for, either in school or you now wish to confess to the world.
So
Things that you do that go wrong. And yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I do. I love to talk. So I mean, when I was a kid, I would always get trouble for talking too much in the class and not focusing, or playing too much, having too much fun. Um, I would say that what I like to do better is to listen a little bit more. I think I sometimes assume that what the person is going to say, and then maybe I don't listen as much. And I'd like to be a little bit more better on that one and more in tune. Um, and I think one of the reasons is my job involved so much of anticipating problems and guessing when things are going to go wrong. I mean, that's pretty much like what um, a project management director, that sort of level, that you're not necessarily focusing on the good. Like your job involves around the bad. No customer calls you and says your team is doing wonderful. That they're only going to call you when there's something wrong. So I think that has a little bit of an influence on my overall outlook in life. And I am trying to make conscious effort into looking to good things longer. I
Wow.
think sometimes I look at the good thing and I'm like, oh, that's sort of expected, and I move on. But the good thing, you need to appreciate the good thing, whether that's a good thing in a project or a good thing in my child or a good thing in a situation that I think, um, because the expectation is already there that good thing is supposed to happen, I may overlook it. And I think I need to be more purposeful on that sense and focus less. And especially now my job allows me to do that, allows me to enjoy the good, and allows me to receive the good from the customer and hear it out. But I'm generally not thrilled to receive bad news, just like anybody else. But I find that if I give myself, my reception is a lot better. If I give myself some time, my reception is better. And my initial reaction is a little bit more, oh my, like, how is this going to work? But then when I actually sit on it, I seem to always find a better look. So I don't know. It's just, I guess, growing up. We're still growing up. It doesn't matter
Sure.
how old you are, and you're still able to look at yourself and see, I can do this better.
I do think that whilst you're establishing yourself and in a particular role, for example, that you mentioned, the predictive powers of looking for something that will go wrong is really important. I remember
Yeah.
when managing projects myself, if you could figure out and course correct your project earlier on, for example, it may be a lack of training resources, or it may be that people are rushing ahead with a config without getting validation. If you can get that tested early on, you prevent thousands of potential issues further down. So I love that. And then coming back to what you're saying now is that when the good things happen, we skip over it because our radar is only
Yeah.
tuned to the problems. So
Yes.
if you're able to look back now, do you think as a skill we could maybe learn to create those celebrations in our projects more often rather than lurching from, meeting to meeting?
Yeah. No, I think so. And not only the celebration, but appreciation for people. I think
Mhm.
we sometimes overlook, especially people who do well. We always expect them to do well, and we overlook the effort and the time that person puts into their work, taking away from their personal life. It's just like it, I think we need to learn to be not to make it an like the norm and the exception is. I think it just rewards. We end up sort of like minimizing the
Mm,
efforts of people that are doing really well.
mm,
So when you're doing really well and when you're like achieving your goals, really contributing to the project, you're not the problem person, right? But the focus seems to be on the underperformers and the issue creators. Your focus needs to go into those because they can create a risk for the project. But I think we have to step back and learn to appreciate the one that's not creating the problem, and maybe just step back from the ones. When I say problem, you know what I mean, like not
yeah,
in
yeah.
any sort of a negative connotation, but issues that are being created on a project run. Um, and I think the other skill that I would emphasize, and I don't know how to teach this, but I think a lot of people are really good like at maybe diagnosing the problem. Like as a skill wise, I was always good at it. But I think what put me one step further was my insistence on fixing it. And I think that's the part sometimes that taking this personally and making your mission that this is going wrong and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that it needs to change course and taking action
Mhm.
is completely different than um, pointing this is wrong, but then just saying, this is the culture, this is the way it is, and we cannot really do something about it. And I think that's the part that will help future generations of project managers to do better because they'll be able to um, change course of what is failing, what is going bad.
Can I ask you to jump into a controversial question then?
Sure.
So the idea of merit, there is also the idea of equality. And so what we have is different genders, skill levels, races, different orientation in any way.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to raise people up so we all have access to the
Yes.
same opportunities. So I believe in that and I wholeheartedly support it. And then at the same time, if you have someone coming into a problem solving session and they're not delivering, um, and that by me is now a failure of their ability to either do their reading, do their own practice. Um, what is the balance that you have between raising someone up and saying, okay, come on, you have to deliver. We can't sink to the lowest level of what
Mm,
then. Tell me about your own challenges where you're trying to get people
yeah.
to step up.
I think we in our D365 implementation bubble, we have that problem a little bit less because the work is very demanding. So you don't get as many people into the bubble that will not meet the challenge. It's just you don't like the job doesn't attract a lot of people who don't have the skills, who don't have the mindset, the work ethic, etc. So my experience has been not dramatic in the sense that not having I didn't have a lot of people that didn't meet the criteria, but sometimes it happens. It does. They don't meet the challenge, and
Mm,
when they don't meet the challenge, then you have to look at a couple of things. One is, are they not capable of meeting the challenge? Do they not want to meet the challenge? Because I've had a couple of cases like that. Like the consultants, I'm just talking about consulting, are very smart, very articulate, very, very good, but just doesn't like the lifestyle, doesn't like the work that involves, and the type of work that that person has to do. Like they say, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't want to push that, I don't want to do that. Well, then that's the work. Like I understand that you have the skills, but the skills, you don't want to pursue that sort of career. And what I find out is, at one point of time, things sort of fall into place, because the ones who don't want to rise up to the challenge, they recede to look for something else. We may look for something else for that person because he's not fit to that role that we're looking into. And sometimes, honestly, customers is a big indicator, right? In our world, that when you send a consultant to a customer, you can, if this project doesn't work out, that project doesn't work out, there's only a number of, times that you can say, you can have some reason, that you can say, this project, this happened, that project, that happened. But is it every project is the problem, or is it, that you maybe have some issues? So I think I was lucky enough that I think it's a completely more challenging situation in a more corporate type of environment, where there are many levels of skills and there are many sort of varieties of levels. Then I think finding that equilibrium is harder. I think what makes it easy for us is our jobs are hard, and it's not for everybody. So it's not, we end up getting a smaller pool of people who, barely makes it.
It leads me to the idea of personal branding. People might think that they're their resume, maybe their job title. How did you see, or when did you learn about personal branding? And
Very late in my career.
like now.
Not now, but I mean, literally, it was like so let's just take the LinkedIn example, right? So I'm very active right now in LinkedIn, and because so the type of job that I have, because I'm the content creator, I'm sort of the face of the platform that I have. My personal branding bleeds into company branding, so it's very much so all together. But when I was a consultant, project manager, director, you know how many connections I had in LinkedIn? Probably 50. It's just my job at that time did not involve marketing the project to the customer, the marketing myself to the customer in a way through those ways, because I wasn't really trying to sell myself. So my company was selling a project and I was there to deliver it. So my purpose was very different. What was important that I succeeded. Like I as a leader, as a deliverer, and the customers saw that firsthand. So they didn't need any branding. I didn't need to really display any sort of branding because the choice was already made. But now, fast forward to having your own business, and delivery is, for me to be able to deliver something, first I have to sell it, right? And that makes me a salesperson. So when I'm a salesperson, then the branding becomes important, because I have to brand, I have to present my value to a potential customer who will make a decision based on what I'm selling them for the future. Of course, after they become a customer, it's a different ball game. Then maybe the branding becomes really low in the priority list, and then customers looking for what you deliver to them specifically.
Cool. Can we look at, do you recall applying for a job? Because in today's world, well, you don't have that problem anymore. but in today's world, people say contact myself and they say, I'm looking for a job, right? And their concept of personal branding may be sparked by that moment where they look at their resume and they go, I haven't got any detail in this. They might have had great roles,
Yeah.
but they haven't got it on their resume. And then secondly, I noticed that everyone stalks you if you're applying for a job and they look in your LinkedIn resume
Yes.
to see what you're about. And then you have to get references. So there's this moment where we're all safe in our job. We're going hell for leather, delivering a project. Project's finished. You wake up and you go, who am I in the world? I'm just a small little ant. How can I project myself of something of value? And people who don't do that, typically maybe they get a job in a month or three and they get one offer, they take that one offer, whatever the salary is, whatever the
Yeah.
condition, blah, blah, blah. And I've noticed that people, maybe like yourself, if you went out, if your own CEO didn't like you anymore and you went out on your own, your brand is so shiny and aligned with professional behavior that I suspect any consulting company would grab you. So, what do you think about a normal job, an employee preparing their brand before they actually need it? What could they do?
Yeah. I think it a little bit depend. You need to first understand what job, like what are you applying to. I think if you have a good idea of what are you looking for, then you can really internalize that back into, am I, if I feel like I'm a good fit to that role or to that organization, and how am I going to articulate that to the company to be able to deliver it. So if you're looking for example, if you're looking for an internship, it's like this. It's interesting because recently I helped one of my daughter's friends to secure an internship for the summer. So and when I was mentoring him and telling him what he needs to put into the resume, how he needs to write up an email, it is a completely different mindset, and that kid is still a kid, he's in college, but the way that he's looking into the experience, constantly I'm telling the same thing, like you want to bring value. Yes, you're going to be an intern, but you need to articulate to them that you're flexible, you want to learn, you're not just focused on one area, you can do many things, and you want to work there because it's a great example for you to step forward into your career. So I think when you build that in your mind, and then every action that you take is for that goal. Every email that you send out, every conversation that you have is building on that. And I think the employers don't miss that. They figure it out. They figure it out if you're just maybe you want this job because it looks good, or do you really want this job? Because it always circulates within that framework of why I want this job, and I really want this job. And and you can remove a lot of obstacles. When I was getting my master's, and I was an international student, so my English was not very good at the time. So I got this interview for one internship job at Nations Bank, which is currently Bank of America. And I was just so determined. And it's, yeah, you cannot really just affect the result. But I was very determined to be 100% prepared. And it was my first interview in English. Like, I went to school here, but I've never been to an interview like with someone. And you know what I did? I wrote every single question I thought they would ask me, and I answered it, typed it up, literally typed it up, and and turned it around. If they when I typed something really beautiful, I'm like, okay, if they ask me something else, I need to bring it to this point because this is gonna really make me stand out. And they, I think, interviewed 25 people, and they picked me. And it was, and it, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I was prepared. And also I was able to really articulate who I was and why I wanted that job. So it could be internship, it could be VP position, it could be something else. I think it boils down to that, is to, do you want the job, and you feel that you are the perfect fit for that job. You in your heart has to, you have to feel it first. Then you can convince the other guy that they should hire you. Because if you don't believe it, how are you going to convince the other person to hire you for it, you know?
Definitely, when I'm hiring for a team, I look for people that do more than go to the workplace, do their job, and go home, and that's the end of it. If they don't like D365 with a passion to either certify themselves or maybe post articles about solutions they found, then I find that they're not going to dig deep when there's a problem and get to a solution. What would you suggest to a consultant, developer, solution architect now who's doing their job for the future? What should they do to prepare for a really competitive future?
I mean, I think the one of the biggest thing is they really need to be plugged in into the Microsoft world. I mean, right now D365 is still changing a lot, like technologically, functionally, and Microsoft is offering a lot of like things to I mean MVP is one way, but a bunch of other ways to be engaged, to like how the future is going to look. There are a lot of meetings and a lot of communication between the communities, and I think technical people are gonna really have to be plugged into that process. Functional people they I think they have to accept that it is a continuous learning process, and we cannot be discouraged by the fact that stuff change. You know, it's just we have to embrace change, and we have to keep learning and having that learner's mindset. um, you can personally invest into your presentation skills, communication skills, all of these new things that are coming up, like ChatGPT, you know, the Copilot and things like that. I think I personally am not. I have not spent yet as much time as much as I need to. I'm find myself a little bit old school, maybe. I don't know what it is, or maybe I'm waiting for that great, a little bit more settled time, but it's you have to do it. I cannot, like, you know, you cannot just close your ears, close
Close
your
your eyes.
eyes
Yeah.
that yeah, it's gonna go away. You will have to embrace change, and you'll have to embrace improvements. I think it's interesting. Kids sort of teach you that, like when you have kids and when they, as they grow up, and they are in a completely different sort of realm and world with everything, social media, the jobs and everything. I think you realize, it sort of gives you that sense that I have to keep up. You know, like I'm, you know, I need to learn new things. I need to with the younger sort of generation and mindset, the new things. And I think that's gonna continue to be important to be successful. I know there's a lot of talk about, you know, it's really now, it's not the same. I understand all of that. Like 20 years ago, it's maybe it was easier to buy a house and this and that, and the many things that puts the young people at a disadvantage, you know. But also there are many things that put them in the advantage, you know. I think if you really want to be successful and want to do the hard work, I think sky is the limit still.
Yes, I recall speaking of a particular circumstance. Say we had 5 consultants in the room, I was one of them, and a problem would come up. And the first person may go to their memory and go, when did I recall this? And the next person would phone a friend and they said, Frank, this is what's happening. Can you help me? And they were limited by the number of friends they had. And I learned with Google that if you could use the correct quotations, pluses and minus, you could take 1 billion pages on the net, bring it down to 5, and I could get to the solution no matter what. In fact, I know that every problem's been solved. It's just I have to find the solution.
Yes.
And we're at that moment now with AI. And I saw you wrote a post about it, AI in training.
Yes.
Tell us about your summary of how AI is going to impact training.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting journey because um, AI is really good at taking certain data data points from multiple resources and combining it together and presenting it to the person who's seeking that information in a really organized way. And that's a great, content creator, because a lot of the content that we create is that we look at the product, we look at the person's role, and we look at all of these other input points. Right now, we're doing it in our brain, and we say that this person should learn these skills and these things. And then we currently, we're doing it manually, we're recording it and things like that. So I think there is going to be a great advancement in the content creation using AI. And who knows, maybe Microsoft will do some stuff that's ultimately going to even eliminate my company. That is definitely a possibility that I'm looking into for the future. I think that part is going to shift and adjust a lot. The delivery part, I think the in-person training, the one-on-one conversation, talking things through and why to certain things happening, that I don't foresee it to be replaced by AI in any time soon. That personal touch, I think, is still going to have to be there. AI can also bring us various new types of delivery ways. One way is that right now, we either write documents, we do, PowerPoint slides, we do videos. So I think a lot AI can really help along with the click along sort of training and explaining things, combining multiple mediums together, I think can be really helpful. But to achieve any of this, you have to have your source data well organized and well developed. So when will we get there is going to be more of an issue. And if people and if organizations are going to be willing to put the investment into building this data so that AI can sweep it and create something that's valuable.
Yeah, I remember the old days. We used to write custom ERP systems or custom accounting systems. Then we moved towards standardizations of some sort with AX, but may have been 30, 50% custom code. Then
Yes.
D365 further standardized it. And I could imagine if in the future, as we evolve, it eventually gets to a standard process, then I
Yeah.
can see how easy it would be for Microsoft or an AI to actually create that step-by-step approach. Well, one of the
Yes.
questions, I haven't seen your latest versions in ItemByItem. I used it a couple of years ago.
Yes.
But tell me, have you or are interested in educating the executive level? And the reason I say that is that uh, I see so many projects that just don't go well. And part of the reason is the team, and the other part of the reason is the executive not understanding technology. And then
Yes.
deeper, a complex system like D365. Are you thinking of going down any executive training route?
So right now, what we do is we've sort of picked and choose some of the training that we normally use for other user communities in the organization, like like a controller or a procurement manager or a customer service manager. But I do agree that I want to make that personas training a little bit better, because even taking even that stuff is a little bit too detailed. Like for them, it needs to be even one step higher. That's something that that in the back of my mind in the list of things that we will be working on. We're looking into doing some training for potentially for marketing and customer insights. We get some requests on those products that Microsoft is heavily marketing. And then I want to go back into redoing some of the existing materials, as well as there are a couple of functional areas within F&O that we haven't yet created training for, that we've been just sort of waiting for it to settle. Like one of them is landed cost. That's sort of like changed many times in many ways. So I think it finally in a place that we can create training for. So that's the challenge when you put the investment into creating training materials, that you are hoping that the product is in that stable stage, so that 3 months later your training won't be obsolete. So I get a lot of requests about, like, do you have Copilot training in this? But Copilot is changing so much, even how you use it. So we will wait a little bit more on that one. I think ultimately we will have something, but we will wait a little bit to see where everything sort of settles and how Microsoft wants to look and feel to work. Yeah.
Yes, I remember talking about Adria about his book, and he was saying as he's writing each page, Microsoft keeps releasing features, and he's going, "What am I going to do?" It's just like
I know.
he could print
I
5 versions.
Well, it's even demo because we have a local user group here, and we, in the last, I would say 3, 4 meetings, there's always been a presentation about Copilot, one of the Copilots, and then every time the presenter comes out is like, oh, like this used to be on this side, but now we moved to this side. So even like where the Copilot is coming from, how it's entering, it's so much up in the air, which is, I mean, it's exciting. It's just it's going to take a little while for it to get settled into something that's more robust. But maybe this is the name of the game. Maybe it is not supposed to be super robust, because then it wouldn't be bleeding edge.
Bleeding edge, yeah. So tell me about your setting up of your business. So there's a pathway a person can go from any professional role inside D365 towards the MVP. And then I see you went out and created your own business. Many people think that starting a business is getting that website up, getting your office, getting a business name, and the effort is in this idea of this thing being created, your baby. But in reality, you had to first find a business model that could or would work. How did you
Yes.
decide training is
So what training was always sort of my baby, like before even I got into AX D365, I worked for a company for several years, teaching supply chain solutions, the different software. So it was like they were doing supply chain optimization, and I used to teach either a 1 week class or 2 weeks class. So like a really deep supply chain stuff. And that's when I loved it. But then of course the whole internet bubble, the happened in late 90s, early 2000s, all of that has happened. Then I eventually ended up working for AX, but I was always super, I don't want to call it attracted to, like I was drawn to just working with people. Like I think that's when I was a project manager also, I was always on the front forward to like presenting, teaching. When I became a director at when I was working for partner, I also was teaching, and I was training all the new new consultants on D365. I was training them on consulting skills. So my training just sort of never went away, let's say, but one way or the other, my roles always involved training. Um, but the really biggest thing was when I was a project manager, I would always think that if there was a training platform like this, it would be so helpful. Like if I had, like when I was running the project, maybe I didn't at the time think about it as an online training, but the idea was that if I actually had a good system where learners are able to go, I can see what they're doing. So when I thought about the business idea, it was really easy for me to just come up with it, because almost everything I wanted to do, I already knew what I wanted the platform to do, how I wanted materials to be structured. It was more a matter of finding the tools and the the framework that can support that, because like it was, I knew that I was going to have to create lots of content, but then I wanted the content to be presented to the learners in a particular way. So for that, I had to find a tool. And even it was funny because when I had the meetings with the, like all of these platform meetings, I had my list. Like I knew exactly, like I knew the questions, it has to hold this many courses, it needs to work this way. So it was more like I knew how I wanted it to work. So I was just looking for the tool and I ended up finding it. And so I had my company for 7 months with no sales, because it took me 7 months to build the content. So there was a company name, there was a website, there's all of these things that were being built, but nothing to be presented to the customers. And after that, I was able to show it to customers and sell subscription. Um, so I think for me, the business idea was there all along, almost. Now I sort of like let myself permission to take the time to build it without much pressure, because there again, it goes back to spouse. When I told this to my husband, I'm like, I'm just going to give it a try. And, if it doesn't work, then, it doesn't work. So, but I'm going to give it a try for a year or two. And, we make a small investment. And he was like, yeah, go for it. And then here we are. So, I think that helped a lot. If I had like investors, if I had expectations and all of these people, if I had employees at the time, I think that puts all of this pressure to succeed quickly. And I just wanted to do it my way, my speed. And then, of course, when you come to a certain size, it changes. Then you have to maybe deal with those things. But it was a joy. I mean, it's been a wonderful journey so far. I'm really enjoying it. I love the flexibility of it. I'm still learning. I'm still interacting with the best people in the D365 world. And it will go as long as it goes.
And then I see your next step is tech fluent.
Yes.
So it reminds me of like Maslow's hierarchy, where we started off, you came to America, you got to put some food on the table, get your housing done, and you work your way through the different levels. And you're now at this little peak right at the top, which is, what is the meaning of life? What's the purpose of all of this? And then
Yes.
I see tech fluent. So tell us about that.
Yes. So TechFluent is an organization that is trying to bring more diverse resources to the 365 world, and specifically resources that may not have had the opportunities and the education chances to get into the 365. So it's very different if you are you have access to internet, and you have access to LinkedIn, and you have access to many different things to start a career in D365, versus when you don't have any of those, or you don't have the skills and you don't have the opportunities. So the idea is to bring up every year a class of students and elevate their knowledge on D365 alongside other skills like business process development and what is ERP and how to build a resume and how to create a LinkedIn profile, and really add a new group of potential employees. I don't want to call it employees, and uh, potential members into the D365 community, which ultimately is going to affect their families too, because these people have their own families, and then ultimately a bigger group of people. A lot of immigrants, a lot of people who had to immigrate to United States for multiple reasons, who maybe had careers in their former or home country, but that they had to give all of that up when they come here. Now they have to restart again. or we're trying to reach out to high schools and community colleges, and maybe someone who cannot afford to go to college but really into technology and it has desire to get into this. So how I got involved is, obviously I have a training company, so I'm going to offer training services to the cohort, the students within the cohort, but also I'm at the board, and I sort of bring a different sort of perspective as as an immigrant, as a woman, and also as a business owner, of like how we can attract the type of students that we're looking for. And there are other elements too, like fundraising, going to other companies to ask, can you support us? So my connections in the partner world and the other parts sort of seem to help. So it's been interesting so far. We just started, so I'm enjoying.
I love it when you're at a level where you can say, I have connections, and they're going, oh, it's like a gangster,
No,
I'll get
but
Frankie to deal with it.
It's interesting because I sent so we're gonna have a gala, like a fundraiser, and I sent information to someone, a partner, one of the presidents, and he asks lots of great questions about, like, what does Microsoft think about this? How is Microsoft, supporting it? And I answered all of the questions, and then he came back and said, the reason I'm asking these questions because this was tried a couple of times before, and every time it sort of like didn't happen. So that's why I was like really curious how you guys are doing all of this, and I'm just happy to be that liaison, because I know that person personally. Now I was able to educate that person how this works, and he's able to support it. So a lot of it is that it's not necessarily, you cannot ask someone to put money into something that they don't believe in. It's more like we're trying to explain to them that the investment that they are putting into, or the donation that they're making, is going to affect so many lives.
Yes. So looking back then at your journey from your childhood through to the US and how you've shaped the outcomes that you have today, how would I describe a superpower of yours? I mean, I imagine your superpower is taking a no and making it yes, persuasiveness. But did you have any other secret powers that I've yet to meet?
I would definitely say taking a no and making it yes is one for sure. I don't know. I get along well with people. I think that's
Mm,
my other thing is I am generally, um, I mean, I don't want to boast, but I'm generally liked. And I think there are a couple of reasons for it. I refrain from saying anything about anybody um, that I cannot tell to their faces. That's a little bit my motto. When I have employees, employers, customers, and we tend to, when you have some customer that's not so nice, or the consultants may have the notion that they can gossip about or say something, and I was never that person, and I did not like it when I heard it from other people, and I nipped it in the bud. So I think it's important to be true to your feelings. So if I am not fond of someone, and I'm not just going to have a relationship with that person, but I'm also not going to have a great relationship with someone and talk behind their back, and my feelings are completely different. So if I don't like someone's behavior, I just tell it to them, and I think it served me well. They may not like it at the beginning, but ultimately they trust that I'm honest and true to myself. I think that's probably my second thing, is that um, what you see, what you get. I think that really helped me with my career, and that is that makes it easy to connect with people, and people know exactly what they're getting when they are working with me, whatever it is, whether that's a volunteer position or project management or as a customer. I am going to push for the things that we've planned and we've promised.
So you're
to
saying
deliver.
like there's no show, it's not a show, it's more you're presenting it like an open book.
Yes. Yeah. I would say
how do I draw that on a cape? So I give you a cape, this is your superpower cape, and I go, a book. It just doesn't have the power. There's no lightning, there's no gun.
I know, there's no lightning power or anything like that. I know. It's I think it's when people, I always told this to the consultants when I was doing the consult, is like it's hard to when you're I think people forget how of a human project like ERP implementations are. So much of it is connection, so I always told them, get to know the people that you work with. Like, do they have kids? Where do they live, and what do they like? And not as a fake, just to, I want to look like I am interested in you, but be interested. And I think when you are interested, you get to know them at that human level and make that connection. Then everything sort of becomes easier. People are not mean to people that they know and they like. If they like you and if they know you and they have that personal connection, they're just not going to throw you under the bus. So I think bring your personality and be an open and honest person, and that's gonna serve you well, in my opinion. But
that's true. I see how from the book joke, it actually digging deeper, I can see there's this transparency comes from that honesty. That's really what's underpinning all of this.
Yes. But like that's why maybe I'm not I don't think I could be a great salesperson. Like I feel like now I'm a good salesperson for my own product because I have good faith, but I still cannot like say things that are not true. Like I cannot like blemish it in a way and say, oh, like you're gonna achieve these things, and I'm not that kind of person. I'm gonna have to tell you that it will do these things, but that no. Or I think that honesty is built into me, and I get it will eat me alive. Like if I don't actually mention that, no, it's not going to do that. You're setting your expectation wrong. It's not going to do that. But
imagine your kids coming to you with a drawing at 8 years of age, and they go, look, mommy, this is a horse and it looks like a chicken, and you go, well, I don't think it's a horse.
Yes.
That's
a horse named chicken, maybe.
Just go off like that. Thank you so much, Elif. It was wonderful chatting with you. I've taken up your time for a whole hour. I look forward to chatting in the future, maybe at a summit, and take care of yourself until then.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Thanks, Elif. Take care.
So happy to be here. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Mobiz is a community-run organization. We believe in liberating people from the shackles of monotony, inspiring them to dream bigger and reach higher. We empower them to focus on the things that matter, growing their skills, solving new problems, and helping others on a global scale.
We eliminate manual work that stands between people and their future, preventing them from learning new technologies, unleashing their talents, and leaving a legacy that has a lasting impact.
Freedom doesn't wait. Join us at mobiz.com.